India-China disengage in Ladakh. But opposition declares war. Rahul Gandhi fires at Rajnath Singh. Congress questions the border situation. Showdown over big border standoff. The top focus on India first.
At a time when the Indian and the Chinese forces are standing eyeball to eyeball at Pangong So and very close to each other at other points at Galwan Nala and Hot Spring, the principal opposition party, the Congress, and the ruling party, the BJP, are eyeball to eyeball on the same issue. What impression does that send out to our adversaries? Does it indicate we are a house divided? I'm Gaurav Sawant. That's our top focus story. Also on the broadcast, top focus story on the broadcast. On the 6th of June, the corps commanders of the Indian forces in Ladakh and the Chinese forces in South Xinjiang, they met at the Moldo-Chushul border meeting point. They decided on a certain roadmap for de-escalation, de-induction, and the two armies gradually moving back. Now, there's a roadmap that's been agreed to in Galwan Nala at patrol point 14, 15 and 17. Also at Pangong So subsequently, where the two armies are eyeball to eyeball. The question remains, can India trust China?
The first signs of a thaw after a month-long standoff in the high-altitude regions of Ladakh. Days after high military level talks, both sides have begun disengaging in some parts of the line of actual control. Sources have told India today that troops of both armies have moved back at multiple locations along the line of actual control in Eastern Ladakh. The Chinese army has pulled back its troops from the Galwan Valley, Hot Springs and patrol point 15 in Eastern Ladakh area by 2 to 2.5 kilometers. Indian troops have mirrored the retreat and pulled back from the flashpoints. Sources say the battalion commanders are in direct contact on a hotline.
We must maintain boots on ground and eyes beyond the ground in the battle space to get 100% 24/7 kind of situational awareness.
But military veterans say India shouldn't let its guard down and must keep watch on the Chinese army's movement. Especially since there has been no disengagement in the key standoff area on Pangong So.
At PP14, PP15 and PP17, both the armies have disengaged and have moved back 2 kilometers. This is a positive development. I would say it's a first step. And these areas are also critical to us because PP14 is in Galwan Valley, which is a strategic avenue for us, and PP17 is in the Hot Springs area. So I would say it's a positive step.
And the Chinese People's Liberation Army continues near the Pangong Lake, the site of skirmishes last month. After the first round of high-level talks between top military commanders, both nations have sent out signals that the talks were positive and the situation at the line of actual control will be resolved mutually. With Manjeet Negi in Delhi, Bureau Report, India Today.
India Today's Manjeet Singh Negi now joins me with the latest on the story. So Manjeet, this is the roadmap, but what's the actual ground position as of now? Have the Chinese forces moved on the other side of India's perception of the LAC, or where we know the LAC stands?
Well, Gaurav, after the meeting at Moldo to solution for the ongoing dispute in Eastern Ladakh, India and China have started disengaging troops at multiple locations in that area. And the development is taking place at the time when both sides are going to hold next level military talks starting from tomorrow. And the talks between the two armies are going to held at various locations, patrolling point 14, 15 and 17 at Hot Spring. At the same time, Chinese army have also pulled up its troops from the Galwan Valley. And we can say this is a good signal.
Okay. So prima facie, it appears to be a positive signal. But remember, this is only a statement of intent. Have troops started moving back to the other side of the line of actual control? And Remember, there are forces that the Chinese had mobilized, their armored personal carriers, their tanks, their artillery guns, their brigades. Have they started moving back? And when will they move back to their peacetime location? That remains the big issue. Manjeet, for the moment, many thanks for joining me. But even as India and China decide to dial down tensions, the tension, the face-off between the ruling party and the principal opposition party at an all-time high, with Rahul Gandhi asking the Defence Minister Rajnath Singh to very clearly state whether the Chinese are today on Indian territory.
As Indian troops stand eyeball to eyeball with the Chinese army in Ladakh, as a month-long standoff continues despite top-level talks, the actual fighting has erupted in India's political arena. Now let's tell you how things got to where they are. Taking aim for the third time on the issue, Congress MP Rahul Gandhi today fired directly at Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, asking in a tweet, have the Chinese occupied Indian territory in Ladakh? The question was in response to the Defence Minister's own jibe at Rahul from a virtual rally.
राहुल जी, हाथ में दर्द हो तो दवा कीजिए। यदि हाथ ही जब दर्द हो तो क्या कीजिए?
Rajnath Singh himself was counter-attacking Rahul for his previous tweet on the 8th of June, where Mr. Gandhi said the whole country knew what was happening at the border, while pouncing on this statement from Home Minister Amit Shah.
एक जमाना था कि हमारी सरहदों से कोई भी घुस जाता था, हमारी सीमाओं के साथ छेड़खानी करता था, हमारे जवानों के सर काट कर ले जाते थे और दिल्ली के दरबार में उफ तक नहीं की जाती थी। हमारे समय में भी उरी हुआ, पुलवामा हुआ, मगर ये नरेंद्र मोदी सरकार थी, भारतीय जनता पार्टी की सरकार थी। कुछ ही दिनों में सर्जिकल स्ट्राइक और एयर स्ट्राइक कर घस में घुसकर दंडित करने का काम भारतीय जनता पार्टी की नरेंद्र मोदी सरकार ने किया।
While the Congress and BJP snipe over the standoff, Hyderabad MP Asaduddin Owaisi has been launching a flank assault on the Modi government from the side.
Government of India should also tell the country, I am not concerned about what the Chinese media is releasing, the Global Times releasing all those videos. I am more concerned about what my government is doing, what my Prime Minister has to tell the country. Why is so much of silence being maintained by BJP and RSS supporters?
With the big guns of the parties booming, the soldiers have now received orders to provide backup.
जो बयान रक्षा मंत्री जी के आ रहे हैं वो वास्तविकता से दूर हैं। देश जानना चाहता है प्रधानमंत्री जी से और रक्षा मंत्री जी से कि क्या लाइन ऑफ एक्चुअल कंट्रोल के अंदर हमारे चीनी सैनिक जो मौजूद हैं उन्होंने वो जमीन खाली की या नहीं खाली की।
चाइना जो दुष्प्रचार कर रहा है उस दुष्प्रचार का शिकार न राहुल गांधी जी को होना चाहिए, न उनको दूसरे को इसके दुष्प्रचार का शिकार बनाना चाहिए।
In India's most reliable battlefield, trust India's politicians to keep their weapons sharp and handy. Bureau Report, India Today.
The question remains, what impression does this send out to our adversary when we are in an eyeball-to-eyeball situation at the line of actual control? Joining me now on the broadcast is Major General Ashwini Sivach. General Sivach was Chief of Staff of the Leh-based 14 Corps. He knows this area very well. Also with me is Professor Gaurav Ballabh. He is the spokesperson of the opposition Congress party. And Desh Ratan Nigam, a political analyst, will give us the BJP or the ruling party's perspective. And Desh Ratan Nigam, if I may come to you first as a political analyst, my question to you is, in 2017, at the time of Doklam crisis, Rahul Gandhi and the BJP attacked Rahul Gandhi for taking information from the Chinese ambassador to India. In 2020, when Rahul Gandhi seeks information from the Defence Minister of India, why should you or the BJP be upset?
See, there is no question of being upset. We all saw in 2017 Rahul Gandhi and Priyanka Vadra and her husband were having secret parleys during the height of Doklam, and that sent a very wrong message to the entire world that the major opposition party of India was not in line with the policy of the government and in fact with India. So that was, as a person, let me tell you, as a citizen, I was badly hurt. And today, let me tell you, military strategies are not discussed in public. There was a more than adequate response which used to be not there prior to 2014. And because of that adequate response, today the Chinese are withdrawing from the, the standoff flashpoints. And that is the success of the entire story. And you don't expect Prime Minister or the Defense Minister to speak on military strategy and what strategy they will have in the future. Suffice it to say that the hardline stance taken by the government of India has resulted in Chinese withdrawal. And I think that is enough message for the opposition party that they at least should be
before
positive.
I bring in Professor Gaurav Ballabh to respond, my only suggestion is don't count your chicken before they're hatched. But let me bring in Professor Gaurav Ballabh. Sir, is there merit in Deshratan Nigam saying that military strategies and ground realities are not discussed, especially when a face-off is on between the government and the opposition in public?
Gaurav, I think Mr. Nigam also got hurt when a Pak-sponsored terrorist entered into Delhi and a Gujarat Chief Minister, Shri Narendra Modi ji, went to Gateway of India for press conference. You got hurt, Mr. Nigam, on that day. I think you got hurt on the day before 2014 when someone was telling, Lal Aankh dikha denge. I think you got immensely hurt. The issue is not who got hurt, who was taking jhulas, who was having agenda-less meetings. I am not going to repeat anything. My simple one-line question to Defense Minister and to Mr. Nigam, that had Chinese troops entered into Indian territory or not? And if they had entered, how we are going to get them out of our territory? Bharat Mata ki 1 inch zameen Cheen ko nahi jaane di jayegi. And simple point is that why can't Defense Minister say in a simple line that no Chinese troop entered into Indian territory? Why can't Prime Minister say in a simple line that no Chinese troop had entered into the Galwan Valley or the Pangong Tso Lake or the hot springs or to the Sikkim area, that Nakula? Why can't they issue a simple statement? We believe in you. You issue the statement. We are waiting. And if you had a problem, convene an all-party meeting. We are going to support, because this is a crucial time. I'm not going to have tutu meme right now. We are standing with the government. Let's have all-party meeting. Let us discuss the strategy that how we are going to remove the Chinese troops which had entered as per army veterans into 50 to 60 square kilometers into Indian territory. That's all.
Gaurav, just 5 seconds.
General Sivaj, if I may bring you in, Deshratan Nigam, I'll just come to you in a moment, but let me bring in a military perspective on this. General, you've been a soldier on ground and exactly in the same areas where the Chinese stand accused of transgressions at multiple locations. What impression goes out to the adversary when the ruling party and the principal opposition party behave in the manner in which they are?
First of all, Gaurav, I was the Chief of Staff of 14 Corps for 2011 and 12. I know the area completely, whether it is a Galwan Valley or Pangangso or Demcho consumer. As far as your question is concerned, if we are a divided house, it is advantage China. They will make use of it. My request to all the political parties is, this is a national crisis. We must stand behind the government of the day and take a united front and make sure that the status quo which was there prior to 1st April 2020 to be maintained by China, and our own infrastructure development which we are doing must continue. So we should support the government of the day from all the angles and not let China make use of it.
Okay, you're saying support the government of the day. Deshratan Nigam, before you start, celebrating, the Chinese haven't moved back just as yet. There is a statement of intent. The battalion commanders, the brigade commanders, perhaps even the div commanders, they will meet and they will decide on a timeline for the most crucial part at Pangong Tso, where they are eyeball to eyeball at finger 4. And remember, India says the LAC is at finger 8. So that entire area, they are in our territory. and perhaps lieutenant generals will have to speak again for them to go back. So I don't think India's succeeded just as yet.
No, the process, let me tell you, Reuters have reported today that the process of withdrawing the Chinese troops have started late last night and early morning today. That's Reuters is speaking. I'm not speaking. And let me tell you, there is a no-man's zone at LAC on either side of the line. And therefore, if you start coming with your armored vehicle in your own territory, that is considered to be a violation. Once Chinese started, India also mobilized its forces and its armored division. And let me also bring to your notice that the Indians activated 3 airstrips and the Chinese were rattled because of that. 2 emergency airstrips were also activated at the border. And Blacktop Road has also been constructed in the Eastern Ladakh by the present government. So all these things have been rattling China, and therefore they've tried to come in the no-man zone with all their armored vehicles. So more than adequate response has been there from the Indian side. And the leader of opposition and the opposition parties have to be on the same page. And let me tell you, there is nothing serious as of now that some war is going to take place. Yes, it has been resolved and the process is on. Let us wait for tomorrow when Major General level meeting will take place further. And I think the close monitoring of the situation is going on. And
Sir, the issue will be resolved when Chinese move back beyond Finger 8.
That is not the day. That is not the call of the day.
Fair enough. Gaurav Ballabh, would you want to respond? Because I have covered this for a long time now. In 2013, I had interviewed Salman Khurshid Saab. It was a UPA government that time. And that time when the Chinese had come into Depsang, he said, and by some accounts 21 kilometers, that time he told me in an interview that this is perhaps acne on a very beautiful face. So, Chinese have been doing this at all times. When BJP was in opposition, it questioned you. When you're in opposition, you're questioning the BJP. Shouldn't the Congress and the BJP be on the same page? Together tell China, back off, don't do this, unacceptable to India.
Gaurav, I consider you one of the journalists who understand this defense and strategic affairs better than many others. But tell me, in 2013, the example which you had quoted, had we not restored status quo? Yes, we had restored the status quo. And I completely agree with General Sivat when he is telling that pre-1st April 2020 status quo we require, we want. And that is what we are saying. We are not loggerheads with the government. We are with the government. We are saying, please inform us, please inform 22 opposition parties, please inform people of our country. And this had not happened in last 2-3 days. It's a 1 month, more than 1 month had happened. 5th May, the first 5,000 troop of PLA entered into the Indian territory. That's what army veterans, that's what Google images are showing. And you are not telling anything to the country and saying that nothing had been. I had a very simple question. Can defense minister or prime minister can't issue a single line that nothing had happened, nobody had entered into the Indian territories? We are very happy, we are okay with that. And when you are saying 2.5 kilometers, they are going back, it means they had entered. Then only they are going back. Now, when they had entered, then only they are going back. So I am with the government, my party is with the government, everybody is with the government. But government wants to inform, government should inform us that what is the status quo right now and how we are going to restore pre-1st April 2020 status quo. That's the simple point.
General Sivat, if I may, what's been agreed between the two co-commanders between India and China is move back from patrol point 14, 15 and 17. But does that mean that the Chinese move back to the other side of the line of actual control? Because they very clearly transgressed, and that's very clear. At Pangong, so will they move back to beyond Finger 8? And more important, General Sivat, what is the importance that the Chinese artillery, armor, infantry, combat vehicles, all of that needs to move back to their pre-deployment, to their peacetime location? That's extremely important to know that the situation has finally been resolved.
Absolutely correct, Gaurav. As far as we are concerned, we want it to be restored status quo what was there on 1st April 2020. That means that what Chinese have done this time is they have earlier used to have face off and then built up. This time they were doing exercise. They first built up and then they had a face off both at Galwan Ghati as well as in you can say Pangangso and Nakula. So one. Second thing is
General, we'll be tracking the story very closely. That's a very important point to make out. The fact that the Chinese came in at multiple locations shows a wider degree of planning. But are the Chinese only good at this psychological warfare? How prepared is the Chinese army? Not that anybody is looking for war, but you must know how strong is the adversary.
This is a psychological warfare video released by the Chinese army to show their preparedness for battle in high-altitude areas. As the Chinese play mind games, this is perhaps a glimpse of the hard realities. Images of a tank biathlon in Russia, where the wheels of a made-in-China tank came off during an exercise. Watch these images carefully. As the Chinese main battle tank negotiated an obstacle, the wheels just came off.
The quality of Chinese tanks and tankmanship has been a question mark for the last few years. Their manufacturing is not so good, and we saw the bogie wheels coming out in the Russian tankathon.
In 2015, Chinese soldiers abandoned their post and weapons and fled when rebels attacked them. In fact, it was the Indian army that saved them in Zuba in South Sudan.
This is in July 2015 in a place known as Zuba, where the Chinese troops were employed as a UN peacekeepers, and they were supposed to protect the aid workers there. But unfortunately, when the rebels attacked that place, the Chinese troops didn't come out.
The Chinese army does not belong to the country, but to the Communist Party of China. Their soldiers lack not only combat experience, but also high-altitude fighting experience.
The Chinese troops, when employed in the high-altitude area, they demand for oxygen and air conditioning. So I told him, I understood that Chinese troops have got a problem in high altitude.
China watchers say that the Chinese army has all the weapons of war and the strategic depth, but the Chinese soldiers are not keen on fighting. They try to follow Sun Tzu's principles of trying to win the war without firing a single bullet, or use their economic might. In such a situation, both Indian and the Chinese armies are now deployed in Ladakh for the long haul. It remains to be seen who blinks first.
The last the Chinese army saw action was in Vietnam in 1979, where they lost to a battle-hardened Vietnamese army. The only action China has seen after that was at the Tiananmen Square, where one man was able to stop the Chinese tanks, or against unarmed protesters at Tibet and Xinjiang. With Gaurav Sawant in Delhi, Bureau Report, India Today.
Must know the adversary's strengths and weaknesses. To all my guests, many thanks for joining me. I sincerely hope our country stands united when we face this adversary yet again. That is all I have for you on this special edition of India First. Many thanks for watching.
Hello everyone, this is Rahul Kamal here. Hope you enjoyed this video. For the latest news and analysis, like and subscribe the India Today YouTube channel, and don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated.